Hi, everyone. This is John Morgan. I'm excited to be bringing this one to you, this Getting Started with 2020 Design. You are here today because you are a brand new user of 2020. So welcome, welcome, welcome to our family here. I have to tell you that we are super excited to be working with you. We're truly proud to be partnering with literally hundreds of thousands of designers out there, not only helping better your businesses, but at the end of the day, bettering the results for the consumers, the end clients. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I want to give you some things that'll make your transition, your learning a lot faster. Now, as we go through, let me talk a little bit about some of the quick start features. We're going to talk a little bit about where do you find help. Where do you find all those cool catalogs that you might have seen in the videos or you've heard about in webinars? You know, how do you connect to the cloud? And then some basic things like how do you draw walls? How do you put cabinets against the walls? How do you tell a customer how much their room's going to cost? How do you add LED lighting all around the room or put brand-specific countertops in? And then we will wrap this up and finish up with, presentations. I know a lot of people get involved with us because they're looking for those presentations that are just going to knock the socks off of their client. Well, let me show you a little bit about that, some tips and techniques, but also a little bit about how to share this information with your customer. So let's jump right into 2020. I actually have a plan already on my screen. It's one of my favorite plans to use. This plan is from a real designer, Anthony Johnson, down in Northern Virginia. Let me give you a little bit of an overview of what you're looking at because I want you to understand the screen, how to navigate. That's most important. When you are working in 2020, you'll see right here that I have a floor plan. It's actually 4 rooms on a piece of graph paper. Each one of these blocks is equal to a square foot. If you roll the wheel back, your plan becomes smaller. And by wheel, I mean the wheel on my mouse. So my mouse has 2 buttons, and in the middle, I have a third item, which is a wheel. If I roll it backwards, the kitchen becomes smaller. If I roll the wheel forward, the kitchen becomes larger. Now, what happens is when you are rolling in and out, you're actually zooming in and out on wherever the mouse is, wherever your arrow is. So if I put the arrow right over top of the island as I zoom in, I'm actually zooming in on that item. So that's a little trick. It'll always zoom in wherever your arrow is. Now, on the left-hand side of the screen, you have 3 really important boxes: information, placement, and then drag and drop. Now, as you start to use 2020, you may, on occasion, click on an X next to one of these boxes. It's one of the first things I want you to write down. You do not, and I'm going to repeat that, you do not want to turn these boxes off. These boxes are extremely important in your working. And so what you want to do is make sure that you're not clicking on the X, but if you do click on the X, this is how you get that box back. At the very top of the screen, we have what looks like or is a ribbon system, just like you would use in Microsoft Word or Excel or PowerPoint. And if we go to the top, there is a tab here called View, V-I-E-W, V-I-E-W, View. When I click on View, you'll see that on my screen, 3 items are highlighted in a light orange. That's drag and drop, information, and placement. They happen to be the same exact names you see here: information, placement, drag and drop. If you turn one of these boxes off, this is what you want to write down. You reactivate them by going to the View tab, going over here to the left, and clicking on whichever one of these 3 are not highlighted. Again, drag and drop, information, and placement. Those are the 3 that should be turned on. So write those down. That's the first tip I want you to have. Now, at the very top of the screen, I mentioned that you have what's called a ribbon system. You'll see that this ribbon itself takes up a lot of space. This is where you find all the features. For instance, File is where you would go in and you would use your save as, your opens, and so forth, like any other Windows program. Home is where you find items like undo, redo. Now, I'm going to come back to this in just a second. See where it says undo, redo, cut, copy, and paste? If you look at the very top of my screen, you also see undo, redo, cut, copy, and paste. These are the most frequently used features in 2020, and we put them in what's called a quick access toolbar. So if I click on room layout and you look at the top, you'll see undo and redo are still there. That means they're always active. I'll come back and talk to you about the importance of that bar in just a second. Now, room layouts where you would draw walls, put windows and doors in. Items is where you would go in and find things like countertop wizard, lighting wizard, which we're going to spend some time on a little bit later in this session. Annotations is where you would draw dimension lines, or actually dimension items, I should say. Add notes, draw other types of shapes on the screen. Presentation is where you would go when you wanted to, let's say, create a perspective, a top view, or even give somebody a report, a quote on their job. View, we've already mentioned. And then the last feature here is called Help. Now, what does Help do? Well, there's a lot of cool items within Help, including things like live chat, where you can talk with somebody at support, remote support, where you can give 2020 access to your computer so we can go in and fix anything you may need us to fix with your 2020. You have to give us permission to do that. But that's all that's found under Help. But here's something else that you should know. See this button right here? It's called Watch Training Videos. This is the second thing that I want you to write down, okay? You want to write down Help with a little dash, and then you want to write down, click on Watch Training Videos. This is what will happen when you click on it. When you click Watch Training Videos, it will actually take you, let me get to my right screen, it'll actually take you to our Level 101 Learning, where you can go in and play videos of the features that you have questions about. For instance, if you weren't sure how to radius the corner on a countertop, you could always go over here to the table of contents, just click on the arrow to go to the next page, pop down here to countertops. It'll give you a list of all of the options. When I go down here and I click on modify a countertop, a little video is going to start right here. Now I'm going to scroll ahead a little bit on this video, but you'll see that I can scroll ahead, and this is actually editing a countertop. Here I've put in a radius end on that countertop. This video is 1 minute and 45 seconds or so long. I'm sorry, let me take that back. 4 minutes and 45 seconds long. So if you have questions, let's say that you're working in the system tonight and you're not sure how to do something, you don't have to worry about reaching out to 2020 or reaching out to me. All you need to do is go to, and let's come back here, go back to your 2020, click on Help, click on Watch Training Video. It will open up your dashboard here, and then you can go back and forth between the features and see and make changes or watch whatever you need to learn in 2020. Here is my recommendation to you. My recommendation to you is that as you start to learn 2020, sit down and play around. Draw some walls. Maybe draw your own kitchen or your own master bath. Draw some walls. Go in, add some items to it, delete some items, take a look at it, start to make changes to it, treat it like it's a real plan. And then anytime you run into a dead end, you can't figure something out, because you're going to be able to figure out 80, 85, 90% of it. Anytime you can't figure something out, don't worry about it. Go up to Help, click on the video, click on that subject, and 3 to 5 minutes later, you'll know how to use it. That is by far the fastest way to learn how to use 2020. And as you start to onboard employees, I recommend you do the same with them. Now, you can always go to the training videos and just start with the very first one and watch each one until the very end. It'll probably take you 2 hours or so to go through and do that. I don't recommend that. Some people do that, but it is available if you want to go from beginning to end. Again, what I recommend is play around. You know how to design a kitchen already. Go in, play around, draw some walls. Anytime you get stuck, go to the videos, and it'll tell you what to do next. That is the best way to learn 2020. So that is, again, another item I wanted you to write down. Now, before I move forward here for just a second, I want to come over here and I want to talk about 2 things. Number one, I want to talk about the drag and drop catalog menu over here on the left. And then I also want to talk about the 2020 cloud menu on the right. Let me tell you a little bit about the difference. Number one, both the drag and drop and the cloud access menu allow you to pick product and place them on the walls. We will do that live in just a minute. But I want to show you where to get some of the cool catalogs. One of the very first questions I get is people have seen some of the 2020 videos, they see some of the really awesome catalogs that are out there, and they're asking, how do I download that catalog into my 2020? If you have a catalog that's going to be downloaded into what's called drag and drop, that's this menu right here. If I click on this arrow next to sample F, which is a generic catalog, which comes automatically. Matter of fact, anything that says sample and room, they're automatically loaded on your 2020, so you have all the generics. But if I scroll down, you'll see I have lots of real catalogs on here. Miele, GE, Electrolux, Best Hoods, Liebherr, Marvel, Thermador. I have all sorts of Tresco I see in here, all sorts of cool catalogs in here, okay? Where did I get those catalogs? Let me show you. We're going to come back over to my browser, and I already have open the website called 2020.net. I want you to write this down. This is the third item I want you to write down. I want you to write down 2020.net. You can write down www.2020.net. Either way is fine. Put a little dash next to it and say, this is where I can find cool catalogs. Now, if you haven't already created a password for 2020.net, you can come over here and simply click here and register and create a password or ask you for your license number and so forth and get set up. Now, I already have a password, so let me show you how you would log in. You would type in your email address. You would come down here and you would type in your password. We will simply click log in. And when I click log in, it'll take a second to log in, but I want to show you where these catalogs are. Now, 2020.net is a real important place to you because it's where you're going to find your downloads. Let's say there's a brand new update to your 2020 system. You can actually download the catalog from there. I apologize, it takes a minute. Sometimes when I'm pushing all this information online to you, sometimes it slows my system down just a little bit. It's also where you find any support documents. Also, you'll find even more training videos listed here. They're all listed here at the top. Now, here's the section that I want to show you right now. When I first came into this, because I'm a 2020 user just like you, it initially takes us into the manufacturer updates. And if you look, it says manufacturer update search by manufacturer. I could click on this button here and search by manufacturers. I could come down here and say, I want to search by type of manufacturers. So if I come in here and say updates, if I simply go in here and say 2020 catalog updates, see the arrow next to it? I could say I want to get all catalogs, just generic catalogs, just virtual showroom catalogs. I have all these options. I'm simply going to hit submit. And what it's going to do is, if we give it a second, it's going to give me a list of all of the catalogs that have been recently updated in 2020. So if we start here, like at the very top, lifespan, Souder woodworking when it comes to catalogs for like closets. General 2020, here's A-Line or A-Line, and then you have Art for Every Day, Artisan Mills. I'm going to scroll down here. Danver Outdoor, Enkaball, Galley, GE, Grass, just to name, KitchenAid, Kohler, just to name some of the few. These are brand new updates. If I drop down to the bottom here, Extra Mats, Wine Racks, Viking, Sub-Zero, Stignisi hoods, these are all listed here, okay? And again, these are the most recent updates to catalogs. Now, I've already downloaded a bunch of catalogs to my system. There's a feature here at the very top. This is what I want you to pay attention to, updates and other downloads. This page contains only the new updates. To see the complete list, that's the important part, to see the complete list of the catalogs. If you click here, this will take you to a new list, and that's what I want you to do. So I want you to go to the catalogs and then click on complete list. And if you give it a minute, this will again list many of the catalogs you just saw. Okay, we just saw a whole bunch of these catalogs, right? But there's actually a lot more. And I want you to specifically download a couple for me, okay? So this is really, really important. You go to 2020.net, download anything you want. You want to download Enkaball, Miele, Viking, all those, please do. But I want you to scroll to the bottom, near the bottom, and there is a section down here, as I come down here, called 2020 Generic Catalogs. All right, write that down. You want to download the following catalogs. See where it says Countertop Wizard in English in Imperial and Countertop Wizard in English in Metric? You want to download both of those. I'll explain why later, okay? So again, write down Countertop Wizard in Imperial and in Metric. Both of those are under 2020 generic, so please download those two. Now here's the third one I want you to definitely download. You can download as many of the others as you want, but you have to do these three that I'm telling you. See where it says 2020 Lighting Wizard? You also want to click download next to Sensio Lighting, all right? So let me repeat myself. Download 2020 Wizard Sensio Lighting and also go up to 2020 Generic and download the Countertop Wizard Imperial, Countertop Wizard Metric, okay? Now, when you're downloading catalogs, oh, and before I go any further, one of the next questions you may ask me is say, hey, where do I get my cabinet manufacturer's catalog? Here's what you do for that. Let your cabinet manufacturer know, either customer service or your rep, let them know you have 2020 and ask them for the link. They'll often have a portal on their website that you can download it, or a link that they'll give you where you can download that catalog to your computer. So cabinet manufacturers' catalogs come from the cabinet manufacturer. All the other catalogs you can find, in our 2020.net, all right? So again, the two countertops and the Sensio lighting you're going to download. Now, how do you actually load those in your 2020? So when you download those will probably go into the download section on your computer. I've actually created a folder on my computer for all catalogs, so I have them download to the folder. But they are not part of 2020 yet. If you come over here to drag and drop, you would not see them. Here is how you would install them. And I'm only going to be able to go part way through this because I already have 2020 open. So let me show you how you would do this. If you want to install that catalog, all right, you want to take the Sensio lighting catalog and load it in the 2020. Here's how you do that. You'll click on the Browse button down here, the little Windows button. You'll scroll down your list of applications. So here are your apps. One of your apps is called Design, D-E-S-I-G-N, Design. If I click on the arrow, there's an option there called Catalog Manager. When I click on Catalog Manager, this screen will open up, and there's a button here called Install. Now, I can't go any further because I'm already in 2020. In order for it to install, I'd have to actually shut 2020 down and then go through this process. But here's what you would do. You would simply click Install. It'll ask you where the catalog is. You'll click Browse, go into the folder where the Sensio catalog is, click on it, click OK. It'll start to load. That'll probably take 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Once that one loads, go ahead and click on your next catalog you've downloaded and load it. And then click on the third one and load it. And if you call your cabinet manufacturer up and you get their catalog, do the same thing. Simply go into Catalog Manager, click on Install, click on the catalog you want to install, click OK. It'll install. That's all we need to do. Now, you may have noticed that there's some super cool catalogs on the right-hand side of your screen as well, under the button called 2020 Cloud. If I click on that arrow, you will see that there's lots of catalogs here. And probably what you'll notice is most of these catalogs are appliance catalogs. So if I wanted to go in here and click on, let's say we scroll and turn 2020 off for a second. Let's say I wanted to go down here and choose the SMEG catalog, the small appliances. We're going to go ahead and click on it. This will pop up on the screen, and you'll see I'm in the 4 toasters right now, the 4 slice toasters, I should say. We'll click on it. There's the SMEG toaster. If I wanted the pink one from SMEG, there it is. Okay. I can go up here and choose any appliance company that I want, and it will give me the most up-to-date information available from the appliance company. They actually control that. They actually load it live on the cloud, and you never have to download it. As long as you're logged in with 2020, you'll always have these catalogs, and you'll have this information at your fingertips. This is really awesome. Number one, it's a huge time saver for you because you never have to look for anything or download anything. Number two, the graphics. Look at the graphics on my toaster here. The graphics are at a much higher level than some of the older catalogs. And all you need to do is actually be logged in to 2020. So let me show you where you would log in at. If you look at the top of the screen, see where it says John K. Morgan at Comcast.net. okay? That is my email address. That's actually my login information. If I clicked on the arrow next to that, it'll come up real quick, and it's going to tell me, do I want to sign out? Now, if you haven't signed in, and you should have had to sign in, but just in case, if you've never signed in, haven't created a login or anything, all you need to do is click. There will be a button right here that allows you to register. If you click register, you put your email address in, you put your password in, and it will automatically register your 2020 so that you are cloud activated. Sometimes when you start, let's say that you're using 2020 today, and for whatever reason you don't use it for the next week. Well, if you log in 8 days later, it's actually going to ask you to log in again. It's going to ask you to retype in your name and password. That'll reactivate it in the system. It'll take 2 seconds. Just do that. But if you continue to log in continuously and you never let 7 days lapse, it'll always keep you logged in. So keep that in mind as well. So right here where my name is, that's exactly where you would go to be able to log in to have access to the 2020 Cloud catalogs. Awesome. Okay, now let's come back out of here and let's start from scratch for a second. Before we do that, let's go over here and just take a quick look. I want you to notice that I actually have a rendering of Anthony's Kitchen open live on my screen right now. So I'm just going to tilt it a little bit, maybe look over here in the corner a little bit. You'll see that I have Anthony's Kitchen live. One of the best recommendations that I can make for you is that you always leave your perspectives open. Don't close your perspectives, leave the perspectives open because the perspectives are what we call dynamic rendering technology, meaning if I make a change to my floor plan, let's say that I have this chair, I want to delete it. If I have my perspective open and I delete the chair, it automatically deletes a perspective as well. They are tied together. So I always leave my drawings open. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start at the very beginning. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say, let's start a brand new drawing. So we're going to start from scratch. So we're going to click new and we're going to give it a second to bring up a brand new piece of paper, fresh piece of paper. And I want to go through some of the basics real quick with you. The first basic or the first item that you're going to be interested in is, drawing walls. Well, whenever you start a brand new drawing, it immediately takes you to the tab called Room Layout. That's real important. It takes you to it automatically. Now, if you're working and you've already started drawing a plan and you want to add more walls, don't worry about it. You can do that anytime you want. You manually will go back to Room Layout tab. Simply click on this button called Continuous. You can click anywhere you want and you start to draw. Here is what I consider the best practices for drawing walls. It's really simple. I call it point and type. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take our cursor. We're going to click on the floor plan. And when we do that, we're going to move up. See, the wall follows me. If I were to take my mouse and move to the right, the wall follows me. If I go down, it goes down. If I go to the left, it goes to the left. It'll go any direction that I want it to go. So I'm going to point up. Now, if you notice over here where it says placement, I have a counter that reads length. Right now, I'm at 142 1/16 of an inch. That number changes as I move my mouse. But I never use my mouse to determine the length. Here's what I do. I point and type, T-Y-P-E. Here's what I mean by that. If I start to draw a wall and I want my first wall to go up, I simply take my mouse and point up. I let go of the mouse, and on my keyboard, I type in the length of the wall, 144, enter. My next wall, I want it to go to the right, I point to the right, 156, I type on the keyboard, hit enter, there's my wall. I want my next wall to go up. I'll point up and I'll say 65 inches. I typed 65 on the keyboard. I'll point to the right again, and we'll say it's 156.75 inches. I can draw down, let's say we draw down 81 space 5/16. You notice I typed in a fraction. If I type in the whole number, I hit the space bar, type in the beginning of the fraction with the slash and then the rest of the fraction, I can enter it that way. Or I could have used a decimal if I wanted to. So I could have said 150.25, right? Now, I have the ability to point even on angles. I take my mouse, point on an angle, I'll say that's 45 inches. We'll point down this way, 45 inches. We'll point over here, it's 45 inches. Now I have a bay window. And I can go around the room, let's just say this is 30 inches, and we'll come back across the room, and we'll say it's going to be 246 inches. I'm just making numbers up right now. There's my room. Okay? And if I zoom in, you'll see 144, 156, 156 and 3/4, 81 and 5/16. These are all the numbers that I typed in. And again, I'm zooming in and out by using the wheel. Now, sometimes, and actually this is the way I work all the time, I want to have an even bigger piece of graph paper. Do you notice that at the top that your ribbons are taking up space on the screen? If I move over here to where my name is, and then I move over a little bit further, you see a little arrow right here, and it points up. And it jumps up and it says minimize the ribbon. If I click on that arrow, the arrow will point down and the ribbon went away. I actually have a much bigger workspace now. This is how I work all the time. Now, don't worry about your features having disappeared. If you look over here on the left, all I have to do is go over and say, I want to go to presentation and click on it. The ribbon pops up. I can click on any feature I want and keep on working, and it goes away. It hides it automatically. Now, you can do something like I like to do, which is put all your favorite features at the top of the screen. Let me show you how to do that. So you really don't even need to use the tabs at the top. You can just use what I call, or what's called, the quick access toolbar. The way you would utilize that is just go to your toolbar and right click. There's a feature right here called Customize. If you click on Customize, you can go into any one of these tabs, take one of your favorite features and add it to the top. For instance, if I went to the tab here called Annotations, and I like to make a lot of notes on my plan. See right here where it says Note? I just highlighted it right here, Note. I can click Add. It'll put it over my list. Now, when I click OK, it's going to put the little Add button right here. So that means I don't have to go to Annotations anymore to click and add a note. I can add it anytime I want and have this big, awesome size screen. So if I go in here and click OK, I now have a note feature right here that I can access anytime I want. It'll always be there. Now, I am going to actually enlarge the top area again, just so it looks like your 2020 does, but you'll see the screen is significantly smaller. So I would recommend that you minimize that. This arrow, again, minimizes it. If you want to add things to the quick access toolbar, simply right-click in the gray bar and choose the feature called Customize Quick Access Toolbar. One of my favorite things about 2020 is you can customize it to work the way you want to work, to look the way you want it to look. That's awesome because anything you can do to create comfort in your design process is going to make you it's going to make you faster and more efficient in what you do. Now, let's come back to the walls for a second. So again, I went over to Room Layout. I clicked on the wall here. I drew my room. Typically, when I draw a room, the very next question that I get from someone is, how do you make a change? Now, you could have made a mistake. Maybe you clicked the button too fast, or you typed the wrong dimension in, or maybe you designed this whole plan, and then you go out and you do your final field measure, and you realize the dimensions you were given were incorrect. Well, how do you change those? Pretty simple. When you're working on anything that's on this piece of graph paper, and what I mean by that is it could be walls, it could be cabinets, could be anything. If we double click, let's say, on the wall, and by double click I mean I pointed to the wall, I clicked the left-hand button twice. It'll open up a list of your walls. It'll say right now wall number 2, which has a little green line next to it, it's 156 inches. If I highlight the 156 and I type in 165, maybe I transpose the 6 and the 5. Watch, when I click apply, this wall is now 165 inches and everything after it has been adjusted. I can literally go into any wall that I want and I can make a change to the length, the height, the thickness, and see where it says top alignment right here? That is where the wall cabinets would align on that wall. If I were using 42-inch high wall cabinets, I'd jump that up to 96 right now. So let's go ahead and come back out of here. So I'm going to hit cancel. Let's double click on that wall. We'll double click on the wall and there we go. That's how you get into the wall properties. Simply by pointing to the wall, double clicking, it opens up its properties. Okay, very, very easy. Now, let's go ahead and we're going to actually come out of here. I'm going to delete this kitchen and I'm going to create something a little bit bigger because I want to have a lot of room to show you some of the other features. So let's go into continuous. I'm going to click down here and let's make this a little bit bigger. Let's say it's 290 inches by 310 inches by 290 inches by 310 inches. I'm just making a big old rectangle. I'm going to zoom in on this. And there's my room. Now, if you recall, I know we've done a lot already. We're already 30 minutes into this, and we've done a lot of things already. I showed you Anthony Johnson's kitchen to begin with. And I said that I always open up and have a perspective of the screen. So when I'm making changes, you actually see those changes, right? So Anthony's kitchen's still open. The perspective's still there. I have just drawn a brand new room. And I would tell you that the very first thing that I do after I draw walls is I actually go back in and I click on perspective because I want to see the image. So if we give it a second, it's going to draw my room. Not quite as impressive as Anthony's because I just started this room. It's just a gray room with a gray floor. You can see it has lighting inside. If I hold the left-hand button down on my mouse, I can tilt up and down and right and left. I can roll the wheel forward and I can stand inside of my room. There we go. We're looking at the room. There's my perspective, right? Now, here's why I do this. I'm going to come back into my floor plan. We'll go back to the floor plan. And when we go back into the floor plan, I am going to, let's say we come back down here, I'm going to pop down here and add a wall or a window. I'm going to go in here and say basic window. Now, before I add a window, I want you to see there's a feature here called openings and obstacles. I am going to just choose a standard window right now to save a little bit of time. Matter of fact, this room would probably have 4, 5, 6 windows in it, a couple of doors. I'm only going to put one window in right now to show you how to do it. And I'm going to save some time because we still have a lot to do here in our final 26, 27 minutes. So if you wanted to choose a window, you could always go to openings and obstacles and it will show you dozens and dozens and dozens of options for windows and doors. If you choose basic window, it's just going to give you a basic option. And you can actually change this. If I click in this workspace right here, it'll come up and give me a quick preview of the window. I have selected this as my standard window when I place, but you can select any window that you like as your standard, and it saves you time because you can just grab it, place it if you need to, and you're not as concerned with going through all the different window types. But again, if you want to choose windows specifically, you can go into openings and obstacles and do it from there. Now, when we place this window, it gives me a preview. You may be wondering, how am I tilting it, looking at it front and back? I'm actually holding my left button down on my mouse and simply moving. See what says height right here? It says right now that this window is 24 inches high. I'm going to make it 42 inches high. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. I'm going to move back and forth. See where my window is? Now, this is really important. This is something you may want to write down, okay? When you're placing objects on the screen, if you look to the left, it'll say placement, and it will give you center, width, left, right. It'll give you dimensions. Here's what you do not want to do. You do not want to take your mouse and try to click in these fields and type things in, because every time you move, the window is going to move with you. All right. So if you look over here, it says center, width, left, and right. I'm going to go in here and on my keyboard, there's a key on the left-hand side. That key is called tab, T-A-B, tab. All right. If I click on the tab key, it'll pop down and it highlights width. If I click on the tab key again, it'll pop down, it'll highlight left. If I hit it again, it'll go down and highlight right. And every time I click on it, it simply goes through the series of dimensions. So all you need to do is tab it down to the item that you know. And what I mean by know is you know a dimension. You know that the overall trim-to-trim dimension on this window is 36 inches or it's 42 inches. Or you know that the left dimension is 196 and 5/16, whatever it is. So I tab down and I know the width is going to be 42. I'll tab down again and say the wall left dimension is going to be 191.5 inches. I don't need to type anything else in. As long as I type in the trim-to-trim width of the item, and I type in, and again, I type in either a left, right, or center line, just one of those. It'll figure out the rest. So watch, when I hit enter, if I zoom in, my wall is 191.5 to the left, it's 42 wide, 56.5 to the right. And if we pop down to the bottom of the screen and we open up our perspective, there's actually a window cut out in the wall because the perspective is dynamic. Awesome. So again, the whole purpose of the placement tool, and the reason I want you to use tab and not your mouse, is if you're using the mouse, the numbers will constantly change because you're moving your hand. Let go of the mouse, hit the tab, the T-A-B key, go down to the dimension you know, type it in, you're good to go. Now, in this room, you would typically go through at this point and place windows and doors all the way around the room, but we're not going to do that. We're going to save some time today. The next question is going to be, well, you placed a window. How do you place cabinets and appliances and things like that? Here's where you're going to place appliances today. As you use 2020 today, you're going to go to the drag and drop menu and choose your cabinetry, I meant, not appliances, cabinetry. Your cabinet manufacturer's catalogs, when you load, when you click on the arrow here, you will be able to scroll up and down and find their catalogs listed here by name. If you're not working brand specific, you can always use our generic catalogs, and you'll see catalogs like Sample F, which is framed, Sample E, which is frameless, Sample M, which is metric. For those of you that want to work this custom, I want to give you another catalog to download. So grab your pen, and next to the catalogs at the top, when we started in the very beginning, I want you to write down D+. D like designer. They're called Design Plus catalogs. There's a Design Plus frameless, a Design Plus framed, and a Design Plus in metric. You can download those from 2020.net as well, and you can have fully customizable generic catalogs. So you don't have to be brand specific if you don't want to. So those are awesome catalogs to work with. Now, I'm going to stay in the Sample F catalog and show you how a cabinet manufacturer's catalog would work. On the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see a list of all of your categories: base, base corner, vanities, talls, walls, wall corners. These are all categories like you would have in a spec book. So if you have a paper spec book, there would be tabs there, and you would be able to go to the base tab, the wall tab, the tall tab. All of those would be there. Now, normally what you would do is in a spec book, you would thumb back through, and let's say you wanted a sink base. You would go into the base cabinet section, thumb back through the pages till you saw a picture of a sink base. You would then choose whether you wanted a standard or a clip corner, and then you would add it to your product list. In 2020, you double-click on the category, and it opens up the selections. If your manufacturer makes sink bases from 12s to 48s, that's what you would see there. If your manufacturer only makes them 24s to 48s, that's what you'll see there, because this is manufacturer specific. So if I go in right now and say, all right, I'd like to have a sink base 36, I can put my cursor on top of it, hold the left-hand button down, and if I drag the cursor over to where the window is and I let it go, watch. When I let it go, it'll pop up with a preview of the cabinet. On the right-hand side, it says, what would you like to add to it? I would like to add this Kohler sink to it. I'll click on it. There's a Kohler sink. That is actually the sink that I have in my kitchen. Okay, so we can go through. I can click OK. That cabinet has been placed. The cabinet has been placed, and it is centered automatically on the window because I dropped it below the window. If I'd placed it anywhere else, I could have moved it anywhere. Matter of fact, I can still move it if I want to. If we come back and take a quick look, I now have a window with a cabinet with a sink in it and a little bit of a dark room. We'll talk about lighting here in a few minutes. Next, I'm going to go in here and say, okay, I have a cabinet, right? There's my cabinet. I'm going to go in and I'd like to place a base corner cabinet. Now, if I wanted to place a base corner, you can do this pretty simply as well. You can always go back to categories and you can choose base corner. If you double click on base corner, you can go through all your different categories. If I go down here to the bottom, though, see this little bar down here? That is a search area on my 2020. I can come in and simply type in the nomenclature, BC36. When I type in BC36, I can find the item I want. I can drag it over, drop it, it snaps into place. There we go. I have 23.5 inches here. I would like to go get a B21. I'm just typing it in. B21, I would like it to be hinged right so it hinges away from my sink base. I want it to have a rollout tray in it. I'll slide it over. I'll leave a filler space, 2.5 inches. I want to place a filler. Highlight down there, BF3. So if you know the manufacturer's, whoops, I typed in 4. If you know the manufacturer's nomenclature, you can simply grab hold of these items, drag them, drop them. It'll snap into place. And if it's something like a filler or a balance, it even trims to fit. I'd like to go get a drawer base 24. Take a drawer base 24 over. Bam, drop that in there. If we come back over here and take a quick look, I'll zoom in a little bit. There's my cabinets, sink base, base cabinet. Here's my corner cabinet. There's my drawer base. And again, I'm going to turn the lights up in just a minute. All right, that's how we place items. So you drag them from here, and down here at the bottom, you click, you can actually search. Now, if we go over here to where it says 2020 Cloud, I can also place items from the cloud. For instance, if I grab this toaster right now, I could put this toaster in my room. Or what would actually be a little bit better is if I actually put, range, dishwasher, things like that. So how do we do that? If you're using a cloud catalog, all you need to do is select the catalog that you want to use. I don't want to use SMEG for this. I'm actually going to go up here and choose Decor. And when I go into Decor, if I click down here, it's going to load live the Decor appliances. I can scroll down and find the Decor range that I want to have. So you see this has a backsplash or control panel on the back. This has front controllers on it. If I simply click Add, it's going to snap it in against the wall here. If we come back in and take a quick look, there's my dishwasher. This has been loaded from Decor. And if I scroll through and I tilt this just a little bit, let's say we tilt it just a little bit, you'll actually see the details. I can see inside of the range. I can tilt up and see the gas burners on the top. I can tilt forward. Oops, a little bit too far. Excuse me. I can tilt forward a little bit, and you can see the controllers on the actual front of the dishwasher itself. I have that type of ability. So we can either get items from the drag and drop menu, or I can go to the 2020 Cloud and download from there. Eventually, over the next year or so, you're going to find that your cabinet catalogs all end up in the cloud too, so that you never have to worry about updating any catalogs. Everything will be automatic and standard. And at that point, drag and drop will just disappear. You'll simply see 2020 Cloud. Next question I typically get is, you guys keep looking at my kitchen, and it is this lovely square raised panel, maple, and some kind of medium finish. And we all know that we're not selling any of those in the marketplace today. Everything is flat panel. Everything is some kind of an off-white or a gray paint. How do I change this? Well, I want you to write this down, okay? We're going to go to Items. I'm going to click on the Items tab at the very top. So write this down. When you want to pick door styles and colors, first of all, go to Items. Next, under Items, there's a feature on the far right called Styles and Pricing. Write that down. When you want to change the door style, color, or wood species, you're going to choose the Items ribbon or the Items tab. You're going to go all the way to the right to Styles and Pricing and click on it. When Styles and Pricing opens up, it will show you all the catalogs you've used on your drawing. For instance, we've used Decor for the appliance. We've used Room. The Room catalog is the windows, doors, walls. Sample F is the cabinet catalog. So this is where your brand-specific cabinet manufacturer's name would be. You can go over to Catalog Styles, the second tab over, and you'll see it says base door, wall door, tall door. Everything's listed there. If I double-click on base door, this will give me a list of all the doors available from that manufacturer. If you're selling, let's say, an entry-level cabinet line and they only has 4 door styles, you will only see 4 door styles. If you're selling high-end custom and there's hundreds of door styles, you will have hundreds of door styles to select from because the catalog is brand specific. So if I clicked on the Geneva door, let's say we go down to wall doors, I'm going to choose Geneva again. We go down to tall doors, I'll choose Geneva again. I can even choose my drawer fronts if I want to. I can put a slab drawer front or a Geneva 5-piece drawer front in. I can put drawer pulls, and see what says species premium. This is where your manufacturer typically has their wood species and options for finishes and paint. So if I wanted to choose alder, you would see all the colors available in alder. If I wanted to go back to my finish, I could go down here and say, I want my kitchen to be white. Now, I picked something called thermofoil because my generic catalog has thermofoils in it. If you're using a brand-specific catalog, you could actually see, Sherwin-Williams, Valspar, Ferro and Ball, Benjamin Moore, whoever their paint supplier is listed there, and actually pick the paint colors. And the reason why that's important is, number one, if we go back and take a look at our rendering, you'll see that my image now actually has a 5-piece drawer front, has this shaker type door. It's been painted white. Number two, when I go to price this in a minute, if white paint is a 10% upcharge, it just added 10% to my quote as well. Now, let's go back out of here just for a second. And let me just remind you where we went to. I went to items. I went to styles and pricing. I clicked on the catalog. I clicked on catalog styles, and I made my selections. That's how I picked my door styles, finishes, wood species. Now, if you want to know how much that cost, well, you would go to the tab called Presentation. There's a button under Presentation called Reports. It's called Presentation because it's what you present to the customer. A report is something that you would present to the customer. So you would simply go in here, click on Reports. It'll give you a list. There's a ton of reports available to you. Everything from lighting plans to countertop reports. I'm just going to do a generic quote. They all work the same way. I'm simply going to click on Quote. This is going to bring me a page real quick. It says Quote Options. I will click View. And when I click View, if you give it a second, it'll actually show you your quote. It's going to come up and tell me it's a couple pages because I've only put a couple items in so far. Just go down, page down. It says I have a drawer base 24. There's my drawer base 24. The list price is $538. All of my items are listed here. And here's my final list price. It's $2,157. Yes, you can put your multipliers in. So you can put in both cost and sell, and you can determine what your company or what your customer is going to see when it comes to the report. Again, that report can be found by going to Presentation and clicking on Reports. They're all listed there. Now, let's come back out of here. I want to show you two really cool features before I finish with the renderings. I'm going to go down to my rendering again. I want to open it up. Oops, I'm back in Anthony's. By the way, you can work in multiple drawings at the same time. I wanted to come back here. I'll talk a little bit about lighting for a second, and then I'm going to show you a couple of cool features. All right, so in my room with lighting, when you have a perspective on the screen, there's a button down here at the bottom. If you go to the bottom, it looks like a little light bulb. If you click on the light bulb, there are two lighting features that I recommend for you. Number one, see where it says sun? If I put a check mark next to visible, a little sunburst will appear in the middle of the room. If I hold my left button down on the sunburst and move, you can see shadowing and sunlight from the room. Isn't that cool? Number one, that's a cool little show for your customer. They can actually see the sun move. People really like things like that when you're selling to them. Movement really helps in the sales process. That's number one. Number two, we let it redraw now. You'll actually have a higher, you'll see that the sunlight will make the paint texture pop. When I put countertops in a minute, the countertop textures will pop. It really makes it look more photorealistic. It even adds depth when it comes to shadowing. If I go back to the light bulb again, there's another feature that I use all the time called Scene. So sun is the top one, Scene is the third. If you go into Scene, see where it says Ambient Light? You can actually take this and let's say move it all the way to the right or close to the right. It would make my entire room brighter. Look how much nicer my room looks. Now, it is shadowed right now because I have sunlight coming in through the window. I don't have any light sources on the other side of the room. But if I had put all my windows in, this would be lighted or illuminated more appropriately. But this rendering is 100 times better just because I went to the light bulb. I clicked on Scene, grabbed the ambient light scroll, and moved it to the right. Now let's stop for a minute and talk a little bit about countertops. In the very, very beginning, if you remember, I told you to download 3 catalogs. 2 of them, I told you to download hundreds of catalogs if you want to, but 2 or 3 that you must do. 2 of them are countertops. And here's why you want to do that. If you download those catalogs and load them into 2020, under Item, there is a feature here called Countertop Wizard. This feature does not exist in your 2020 unless you download those first 2 catalogs. Now, once you download those catalogs, you can go in and download Cambria, Silestone, whatever you want when it comes to quartz. If I click on Countertop Wizard, and I give this a second, it'll actually walk through and show me, let's say we want to start a countertop. It'll say, what material? I want to use stone. When I click next, it'll actually come up and show me the catalogs I've loaded. I have Cambria, I have Decton, and I have Metro Quartz on my computer right now. I can have as many of these as I want. If I stick with Cambria right now and click on the button, when Cambria opens up, we'll give it a second, this will show me all of the Cambria styles, all the selections. If I want to use Berwyn, I can have Berwyn. If I want to use Britannica, I can have Britannica. I love to use Britannica on islands because of the long veining. Okay? So I have the ability to go through and pick whatever I want. Now, here's how Countertop Wizard will work. And you can watch a video on this too in the help area. I'm not going to go through this one step by step. I wanted to show you where to go first. Here's how it works. When you make a selection, you'll click next. And if you give it a second, it's going to ask you another question. And then you'll make a selection. Like I'm going to say 3 cm for thickness. You'll hit next. And it's going to ask you another selection. It'll say, do you want to auto design? I'll say yes. I'll hit next. You'll see a little pattern here. All you do is answer the question and hit next. And every time you answer that question, hit next, it simply takes you to the next question, and then you answer that question. Like right now, it's asking me what type of edge do I want, and it'll walk through really quick and ask you to, define what your sink is going to be. This could be non-cast iron. We'll go ahead and we'll hit next. It'll drop down then and allow you to go down and put in, let's say, dishwashers if I wanted to, because I haven't put one in yet. Do you want to put any obstacles, any openings? Do you want to put any backsplash? Do you want to put any edges and so forth along the system? It'll walk you through all of these items. Like I'm going to say, I want to put an edge here, here, and here. And when I'm finished, watch what happens. Not only will it create a plan, I can actually bring up a countertop plan. But if I come in here and take a quick look at my drawing, I just added the Berwyn countertop in my kitchen. And if I zoom in a little bit, let's say we zoom in here, which is a little bit too far, you'll see the Berwyn countertop from Cambria on my kitchen. It's pretty cool. Now, this only works, and again, it only works if you download the catalogs. And the first 2 catalogs you have to download are the 2 countertop catalogs that I told you to write down when we first started this web meeting. Now, the next thing I want to show you, and I'm actually going to close out of here. I'm going to switch. We're going to switch over to Anthony's kitchen for a second. I want to show you a really cool lighting feature before we wrap this up. So we're going to go over here and we're going to activate Anthony's kitchen. There's Anthony's kitchen. I'll zoom in on it so you can see Anthony's kitchen. I already have it open here, and I want you to notice something. I am going to turn and look down at an angle. By the way, there's no backsplash over here on purpose. I use this for training, and I show how to put backsplash in and things like that. But for today, I want to talk about lighting. I'm going to go right back into lighting like we did before. I'm going to go into scene, and I'm going to turn my lights all the way down this time. I'm going to make it nighttime in this room, okay? Now, there's a feature under items called Lighting Wizard, all right? Now, again, if you recall, I asked you to download the Sensio catalog in the very beginning, too. If you don't download the Sensio catalog, you will not find Lighting Wizard on your 2020. You must download that catalog and load it into 2020 first to activate Lighting Wizard. Now, when I open up Lighting Wizard, it'll say down here at the bottom, do you want to use standard LED lighting, deluxe LED lighting, or premium? And the difference between the 3 is standard would only put under cabinet lighting in, whereas the next level will give you more. And when I go to premium, it says, do you want to put lights above cabinets, below cabinets, inside toe kicks, and so forth. So it'll do this automatically. You also have the ability to change it. I can go into lighting type. I can click on this and say rigid strips. I can then choose the material that I want to use or the type that I want to use, the warm light here. I'm going to go down here and say I want to make this dimmable. And when I make my product selections, if I click OK, it's going to tell me that it's about to design a lighting plan for this entire room. Now, keep in mind right now that Anthony's room is pretty big. It's actually 4 different rooms. So it's doing a lighting plan for this entire plan right now. So if I had just a little L-shaped or U-shaped kitchen, it would actually be done like that. It's gone in and it's put lights all around the room. It's actually put all the lights in, the drivers, all the component pieces, everything's there. I can do a complete plan on this. And again, keep in mind that the lighting will only work if you've downloaded the Sensio catalog, loaded it, and then Lighting Wizard appears. If we come back in here and take a quick look, you'll see that my kitchen now has under cabinet lighting, in cabinet lighting, toe kick lighting. That's a little bit bright, so I can always come back to scene. These lights are called user lights. I can adjust these down just a little bit so they're not quite as bright on my screen. And now I've added all these other lights. And you have the ability at this point to go in and say, okay, I've added the additional LED lights. I want to turn the room lights up just a little bit, let's say. So we'll turn the room lights up a little bit. I'd like to go in and turn the sunlight on, and we can make a quick adjustment to the sunlight into the room here. So we'll go in and say, I'll put a little sunlight on that countertop right there. Let's say we do it like that. And then when we come back and we let it render, this is what really makes these renderings photorealistic, is when you start putting lighting and shadowing and combining them all together. So it's pretty cool. Now, a couple of other quick things I want to show you, and then I'm going to wrap up. When you're working in a rendering, you have the ability, again, to move around simply by holding the left button down. You can move right, you can move left, you can look any direction that you want on this. Did you know there's a lot of features at the bottom? I typically use the lighting feature, but did you know that there's also a little gear down here? If we click on that gear, I can go in and say, I want my rendering to be wireframe, or I want to go in and I want my rendering to be just hidden lines. I can make it just color. I have the ability to change that simply by clicking on this gear here at the bottom. Now there's one more feature that I want to end with, and that's the feature at the very top. See this button right here? This is called Save as a 360 Panoramic View. What is a 360 Panoramic View? Let me show you. And you don't have to know how to do anything other than click on this button and type in your email address and tell it where you want to stand. Okay? That's all you need to be able to do. Click on that button, type in your email address and where you want to stand. And if you click on that, this is what it will create. It will create an image. This is actually a kitchen. This is Michelle Raymer's kitchen from one of our award winners this year, Inspiration Design Award winners. It creates a high resolution image that you can send to your customer, and they can load it on their phone or their iPad or their Samsung smart devices, whatever it's going to be. And they can literally hold these in front of their eyes and turn their bodies, and the room will turn with them. It's 360 degrees. You can look at the floor. You can look at the ceiling. You can look right. You can look left. But here's the best part. The best part is your customer, and if I go to my next slide actually, your customer can actually stand inside their current kitchen, their 1982 kitchen, and they can hold their phone to their eyes and turn right and left, and it will turn with them and show them what 2018 is going to look like. Here's the last thing, or second to last thing I'm going to ask you to write down. I want you to write down panorama.2020.net/pano. So please write that down, and here's why. As soon as we're done, I want you to grab your smartphone. I want you to type this into the browser. And when you type this into the browser, you'll actually go to the screen that we were just looking at on my screen, where you can turn right and left, and you can experience what your customer would experience in the future when you send them this link. This is part of 2020. It doesn't cost you anymore. This is built into 2020 for all of our active users. Now, let me show you a couple of cool technology things that current users are using, and I still have the panorama description down here at the bottom, or link down here at the bottom. A lot of folks will actually take it to the next level. Our panoramas have the ability to be virtual reality. At the bottom of the screen on your phone, there will be a little pair of goggles. If you click on those, it will create a left eye, right eye experience, which means your customer can stand in your showroom. You can click on that button on their phone, put their button inside of a pair of plastic virtual reality goggles. You could go to Amazon and get them for $20 on average. You can pop their phone inside there. They can put the goggles on, and they can turn and feel like they're in their room. It is photorealistic, or completely immersive is what I really should be saying. There are other goggles out there that people will use for marketing. They'll send customers home with them. They're made out of cardboard. Companies like Dodo Case make these. You can actually buy these and brand them for your company, so you can send your customer home, have them show all their friends and family their great new kitchen with your company logo all over it. And then I have some 2020 users that go the professional route, and they're using Oculus glasses in their showrooms as well. Now, the Oculus glass is a little more expensive, $300, but it's no different than buying a TV for the wall in your office. Buy a pair of Oculus goggles, hook it up to your computer, and your customer can put the goggles on and really feel like they're in that room. This is a professional experience. So write these down. Plastic goggles from Amazon, that's what I recommend you start with. Go buy a couple of them. Go down to your local Costco or Best Buy or something. You can get plastic goggles. Put your customer's phone in there and start showing them renderings in that way. If you want to market, you have Dodo Case. If you want to give a professional experience, you have Oculus. But at least start by getting a couple pairs of plastic goggles for your showroom. Now, we are right on time. I actually am a minute late. But if you take a look, I just wanted to recommend, too, if you want to have further immersive training in 2020, you can go to our website, 2020spaces.com/training. We have training schools or training sessions all around the country. You can sign up for one of those, travel those, meet some of our really cool trainers. You're always welcome to obviously work with me online and participate in our community, which is 2020spaces.com/community, where there's lots of questions and postings by designers just like you. And as always, you can go into the help screens and everything else that we've shown you. So what I'm going to do today is I'm actually going to wrap this up right here, and I'm going to leave contact information. 2020spaces.com is our website. 866-698-2020 is our direct line, phone line. I'm going to end today by thanking you. We have a lot of people online with us right now. I want to thank you for being a new partner of 2020. Hopefully, I've been able to give you some excellent tips, and you've been taking some great notes. Amy's also recording the session. My partner Amy is recording the session right now so that we can share this with everyone as well. Again, hopefully we've given you some good points to get started with. And as you have more questions, do not hesitate to reach out to us. And I look forward to working with you guys further in some follow-up webinars. So again, thank you for partnering with us. We're excited about the results we're gonna work together to give your clients. And I want to thank you for your time today.